Hey guys, Kyle here with STILLEN, and we are taking the opportunity here to do a little bit of a video for you as we install some STILLEN adjustable sway bars on a customer's 2023 Nissan Z. So this is a really popular application for us. We've been selling sway bars and manufacturing them here in-house in the United States for almost 30 years at this point. So this little video, we're going to show you this particular car. We're going to show you stock and show you what the body roll is doing from the factory. And then we're also going to be showing you after we install these sway bars. So with these sway bars, they are, like I say, a fully adjustable sway bar set. That means that they have 3 different mounting points on the front and 2 different mounting points in the rear. Now, technically speaking, we can actually call it a 5-way adjustable front and a 3-way adjustable rear because you can split the difference. For more information on that, check out our blog. But for the purposes of this video, just follow along as we talk a little bit about what you're going to want to do and how you're going to want to set up your sway bars for your Z. So to start with, this particular car, just like all cars, has a tendency to understeer. From the factory, all OEM manufacturers are going to design their suspension in their cars to understeer. It's a lot safer than oversteer. So what we're trying to do with our sway bars is we're trying to dial out that understeer, come up with a more neutral balance, which means that the car can rotate through the turns and accelerate through the corners in a more planted and better handling platform. So how do you know where to set up your sway bars? You've got all these different adjustment points. You've got 2 or 3 in the rear, you got 3 or 5 in the front. So how are you going to know how to set up your sway bars? Well, the simplest thing to do is to consider what you're doing with your car and also what other modifications your car already has on it. So for this particular car, it's completely stock. All we're doing are the sway bars and a catback exhaust system. But from a suspension perspective, it's completely stock. Stock tires, stock shock absorbers, stock springs. So because of that, we know that our biggest limiting factor in traction is going to be our rubber. It's going to be our tires. So we don't want to overpower our tires and go too stiff with our sway bar. Some other competitors offer a 200% stiffer sway bar than factory. That's a pretty wild number. We don't ever want to go that stiff. And the reason for that is because that's basically saying that the engineers who designed one of the best handling sports cars in the world had no idea what they were doing and they were 200% off. That's not really the case. What we like to say is that the engineers who designed one of the best handling sports cars in the world knew what they were doing. They just then had to dial it back and do what we always talk about, which is put in a little bit of compromise. They had to compromise for road safety, for driver safety. Again, they had to dial in that understeer to make sure that if somebody went into a corner too hard, the back end wasn't going to come around. It wasn't going to over rotate on them. So they purposely designed the suspension to push or understeer through a turn because it's much safer. They also have to design these sway bars for all different types of drivers. So the Nissan engineers, they know what they're doing. They're not 200% wrong, right? But they just need to dial out some of that compromise, and that's where STILLEN comes in, and that's where we design our sway bars. With that in mind, because we're running an OEM tire, we have a high center of gravity with our stock ride height suspension. We're actually going to set up our rear suspension in the softest setting, and we're going to set up our front suspension in the middle setting. Now, what does that mean? How do you know what's softest and what's middle or what's stiffest? Think of your sway bar like a torsion bar or like a torque wrench. Well, a sway bar is doing exactly the same thing. The further out you go, the easier it is for the car to apply that load. So you're actually just making it softer. It's much easier to get the bar to twist. Now, if you want to tighten everything up and you want to make it harder for for the vehicle to twist that bar, then you're going to want to bring in that mounting point. That mounting point of your end link being further into the center of the bar is going to be much stiffer, much more challenging for the forces, the G forces of the car to be able to twist that bar. So that's why your closest to the middle of the bar is going to be your stiffest setting, and your furthest out mounting point is going to be your softest setting. So again, for this car, we're going the softest in the rear, and we're going with a middle setup in the front. And we feel like that's going to be the best handling for this tire and suspension package. If this particular customer decided in a year or two that they wanted to lower the car, they wanted to go with maybe a more aggressive shock absorber, or they wanted to run a tire like a Toyo R888 or a Nitto NT01, then we would go with a stiffer setting in the front and a full stiff setting in the rear. And that's really going to be able to take full advantage of those much grippier tires. However, with the OEM tires that aren't going to provide us with as much grip, we're going to want to back that off in order to make the suspension more compliant, thus allowing the tire to stay in contact with the ground and apply that grip. It's all about making the suspension and the tires and the asphalt work together so that we can put that power down and get the car rotated through the turn. We hope that answers any questions you have about the sway bars. If you have any more questions about STILLEN Sway Bars, or if there's anything more that we can help you out with your Z, give us a call, drop a message in the comment section. Otherwise, have a great day.